Morning, dear Sangha. Good morning to our mothers everywhere. Thank you for the blessings. I have two announcements. One is next Sunday is our Sangha potluck. You do not need to sign up for anything that you are going to bring. Please just bring yourself, an offering, and your smile, and we will have that time together after Sangha. The second announcement is in reference to the meditations, daily meditation time. That has been moved from evening to 6:30 a.m. If you will be joining for the daily meditations, it is 6:30 a.m. and please continue to text to let them know you will be participating. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I've just been asked to lead a meditation to bring us down to a place where we're ready to receive what Venerable will be able to give to us today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, would you like to have the lights dimmed a little, or do you like it the way it is?
Lights down.
Pardon? Okay. Okay. So, let's take in some deep breaths at your own rate. And just let out the driving here and everything that's been going on in your life right now. Let it settle down and put it aside. It will be there when you leave. And you will be more confident and able to handle whatever you have in your life when you leave. And just keep using those deep breaths at the rate that is comfortable for you. Letting them gradually slow down. Feeling that the air going down deep into your belly. Then slowly rising out through your nose, in through your mouth, chest expanding, belly relaxed at your own rate. Allow your mind to travel to a place where there's a beautiful stream that is sparkling in the sunlight. And gently passing over the sand and polished rocks, just a little bit below the water line. It's a slow stream that's meandering ever so gently and sweetly along the banks. And the sunlight is just shining through in that sparkling sand. It's so clean and clear. You might be able to smell the foliage, the grassy areas besides the stream. The sweet smell, fragrance of some wildflowers being nourished by the stream. Perhaps you are walking beside it, or you may be sitting beside the stream, or you may be even floating in a little paper boat that you folded yourself and placed in the stream. And now just allow yourself to open up, to release, to let go, to become the fragrant air. You become the stream and allow yourself to flow. You might hear the sound of tinkling bells somewhere unknown. Sweet tinkling sounds, ever so faint but clear. You are becoming the stream. You are the stream. Free, flowing, sweetly singing your sound through the trees. Flowing into a larger stream, melding in with waters from the mountains and lakes and streams until merged, you become one with the ocean. And you feel the vastness. You are the ocean. You are the depth, quietness, peace, serenity, and sweetness of the ocean. Feel the strength of that hugeness, the power. Breathing in deeply the power and the strength and the confidence of the mighty ocean that you are. And still hearing the bells. Smell the sweetness of the air as it touches the water that you are. Breathing in as the waves of the ocean come upon the shore. The ocean breathes out as the waves move up to the shore, and breathes back in as the waves flow back out. And you feel that breathing in and out with the gentle waves as they slide sweetly up onto the shore. As you breathe, you are the oneness with this mighty ocean. You feel the power, the strength, and the confidence, and also the depth, quietness of the deep. And the sweetness of the colors, and you still hear the bells. And gently, ever so gently, you move back up to the surface of the ocean that you are. And you feel the touch of air upon your body. And you become aware of your breathing. Slowly, deeply, quietly, sweetly, confidently. Take in your own pace a couple of very deep breaths. As you let it out, let the sound come out. And as you very slowly come back to the room, you bring with you the memory. And as you open your eyes, a smile crosses your face. And you come back to the room.
I was so happy this week because I got my Dharma talk in the middle of the week. And it usually comes, when I have to give it. And so I think I must have passed to another grade because I can get it a little early. Maybe I can even add something to it. Um, and so when I grabbed it this morning, um, it got all turned around as usual. And so it's
You want the light down or?
does it affect?
No.
If it's okay, I'll just leave it down like this because I really want you to listen today. We're so blessed to have these Dharma talks that the Buddha left for us. And I'm going to read as much of one as I can today. It's pretty long. And I hope I get to the second section, but I don't think I will. I'll do as much as I can. This is not the one that was given to me earlier this week. It was I was going to read the His Holiness Dorje Chang gives a discourse directed at beginning level students on the Esoteric Dharma, and you can let her know that there's a kennel, so it's not her dog she's hearing. Um, uh, Buffy, right? So haven't seen Buffy in like maybe 5 years. So I was going to talk about Sambhogakaya Buddha and what that enjoyment body is, and that how a Nirmanakaya Buddha is able to save living beings because he transforms into a human being in order to save them. And that's what I thought I was going to talk about today, but I'm not. I am going to read about the differences between exoteric and esoteric Buddhism. And at the end of this, the Buddha Master conveyed an empowerment. So this is more of a teaching lesson today, and we have been working with cultivation, particularly the last few weeks. And I think you all had a homework assignment, right? Who remembers it? I mean, like, I don't remember it because it wasn't my assignment. It was the one I gave you all. Nobody remembers it? Did it have something to do with thinking of this life as a dream and how one handles circumstance? I mean, that could be it. Was that it? How? Did anybody do that? So I'd like to hear a little bit about what you don't have to give me the circumstances in which you applied it. I'm just talking about the application now of having a mind that thinks of this life like a dream, like a bubble, like a shadow. So I'll give you an example of something that came to me this week. That how, when you're in the shade, you can't really see your shadow. But when you're in the sun, you can so clearly and immediately see the shadow. And how the Dharma then, like the sun, helps me to see and detect what is there, but what's obscured when I am out of its direct, out of its direct rays. And so that's why it's so important to keep the Dharma in mind at all times, because it will keep you in a kind of light that allows you to see the shadows. And so every time something would be going on with me, I would look for the light of the Dharma to show me what's really all around. So this morning I was talking with Kay, and I'm spending more time with her, sharing things concerning the Dharma, sort of like maybe answering unasked questions, because I am seeing things because of the light of the Dharma. So not things don't have to be said, things don't. There are some things that you just come to know, and in this reading today, we'll talk about how you come to know those things. And so I was talking with her, and I said, Kay, I was thinking about writing a book finally. And I think I'm getting closer to the time to write the book. Any time before now would have been premature. Because the story that I want to tell is the dissolving of Pannavati. Not what she did or what she accomplished in her life, but I want to talk about the dissolution of Pannavati. That's what the book is going to be about. And she says, well, I don't know what you mean. I said, Kay, I have pretty much always done whatever I wanted to do. I said, so all of the quote good things that I've done in my life, could I really call them good, seeming as they were what I wanted to do? It was like it can appear altruistic, right? But it wasn't like I did them just because they needed to be done, but because they needed to be done, or I wanted to do them. I wanted to do this for somebody. I wanted to do that for somebody. There was always an I who wanted to do it. It wasn't that I didn't want to do it, but I did it nevertheless. It was because I wanted to do it. So in a sense, what appears totally altruistic was actually, for me, totally selfish. Now, I couldn't see this before because I was in the shade and I didn't see the shadow. But in the full light of the Dharma, I can see that maybe a whole lot of what I did was because I wanted to do it. I had a mind to do it. Someone else might have had a mind to do something else, to excel in paragliding. I don't know, but I had a mind and a desire to excel in helping people. It gave me great pleasure. And in a way, I have been attached to that great pleasure. Now, this doesn't mean, okay, so now don't do anything because, you're just heaping it and consuming it upon your own conceit. I don't mean it like that. I'm talking about when one can see from here to here. And on the basis of seeing just from here to here, they could see that maybe this much was good and this much not so good. But then when one begins to see from here to here, then that space that you have occupied from here to here, and it's here to go, you start to see that it's kind of on the lacking side. There's so much more. There's such a higher, different way of knowing and being and acting. Then I start to think, oh, that wasn't so much. And seeing that it wasn't all so much, it doesn't mean that now I denigrate myself. It's like I'm just being real about what's real. That's what that means, And so there can be a certain confidence that we have, in what we do and what we know. And it doesn't mean that we don't do those things and we don't know those things, but the confidence that I had in what I did and what I knew, it has shifted. I have a lot less confidence in Pannavati now. And while that doesn't feel so good, it is so good. I have much less confidence in my capacities and my abilities as myself is what I'm saying. And one has to lose that kind of pride of life and confidence in themselves to be able to inherit the whole thing. And so we come to a place that we step out of ourselves, and stepping out of ourselves leaves us in a kind of tenuous position because we're not so accustomed to that. I mean, whether we have a strong confidence in ourselves or whether we have a lack of confidence in ourselves, the operative word there is ourself. And there comes this space when there is the transformation of self, the transformation of the understanding of self as this individual finite being, and we start to lose that sense, then there is a period of moving through this transformation from an ordinary, untaught, run-of-the-mill human being to that which is actually a recognition of our true intrinsic nature, the Buddha nature, the Dhammakaya. There becomes this little space here where one rightfully becomes insecure because they're now seeing the falsity in which they have held life. And so it's a tenuous and it's a delicate space. And during that time, you have to really focus intently on the Dhamma wisdom that's unfolding. And you can't even talk about it too much with others because all you're going to get from others is what? What's in their own mind. That's all you're going to get from others. They're going to tell you what they think it is, and from their spiritual practice and discipline, what it means, and could it possibly be this, and there's this desire to want to talk it out with someone, but you can't really talk it out. You have to walk it out with yourself. I mean, there comes this great need to talk it out, to make sense of it. But you can't make sense of your reality through another's sense of reality. You just have to walk this out. And so we're coming to some thin spaces. And thin doesn't just mean thin, it also means not concrete. It's like in the Bible, we talk about the Logos and the Rhema. And the Logos, you could say, could be the laws that govern the universe. You could consider that the Logos, established principles of the universe. But the Rhema is the revealed aspect, that which is present, that which is alive, and that which of all of that is suitable for this moment in time, for this moment, for this place, for this person, for this circumstance. What of all of that is suitable for right now? And that's the difference between the academics that come with Buddhist studies or any other kind of studies, and the Buddha Dharma. The Buddha Dharma is the totality of it all, but as revealed for this specific moment, this specific person, this specific situation, which is shifting constantly according to how we see it and how we understand it, but not just how we see it and understand it, but the overriding law of the universe, which would be causality, cause and effect. And that's why we talk so much about cause and effect, because cause and effect is the primary or primal principle by which this universe operates. And in any kind of spiritual ways you want to say that, that's fine, but just understand it all boils down to cause and effect. That's what creates the next moment. So I'm going to read this, and I love the way that Buddha Master teaches. It might be frustrating for some because we're so used to an academic model, We're so used to linear thought, we're groomed that way. And so teaching for us implies a kind of linear progression. But if we look at how life rolls out, it is not a linear progression. And so we have to know how to bob and weave, and how to move around, and how to be with whatever is arising at this moment. And it can have one cause or it can have 10,000 causes. But we face the moment as the moment, and that's how we make it from moment to moment. That's the real deal. When something arises, we can't stop it and say, no, before this, you have to do this, and before this, you have to do this. It's like we just accept it, like the wind blows. We accept life, and as it comes, momentarily, moment by moment, we have no other choice. And so we have to have a wisdom that's like the wind, that when something arises, we know where pull it from to apply that wisdom to succor the moment. And that's the way Buddha Master teaches us to be. I was watching Kung Fu Master
Bruce Lee?
Yes, my favorite. So I'm watching Bruce Lee yesterday, I just love it, his excellency, of practice. I think he was the greatest martial artist that ever lived. I honestly do. And so we were all trying to be like Bruce Lee, when we were in the early 70s. And he was so quick, it was so fast. He was, but I looked at how he practiced and the exercises that he did to condition his body and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, I want that, but I'm not willing to do what it takes to get that. So like this level will be okay for me, and I looked at the difference in how Pannavati and I practiced. He really practiced. I sort of practiced. I did as much as I wanted to do. He did as much as he wanted to do. But he was always better than me because he put forth more effort at the practice than I did. And sometimes I could look prettier than him in my movements, but the movements didn't bear within themselves the quality and characteristics that the movement would have in real life. It just looked good, but it didn't carry because the principle was not embedded in the movement. But for him, a movement was not perfected until the principle of the movement was realized. You know, I felt that way about the Dharma. He felt that way about Kung Fu. You know, but at some point they converged, and he switched to Buddha Dharma. And I remember the very day because he folded up his gi, like uniform, his gi, and his Kung Fu slippers, and he put them in the closet, and he never wore them again. And so he looked so good in his uniform, he wasn't stout. He was like absolutely fit. His waist was like this. So when he had his black belt on, it just looked the epitome of a master. And I heard when he put his gi and his slippers on, I said, how can I wear mine again? Because in that practice, he was my master. I said, if he puts it away, how can I wear it? How can I wear mine again? And I wanted to wear mine, but I put it away. And so it laid a foundation for me when not when I encountered Buddha Master, but when I gave myself to the teachings. I was willing to put aside what I knew in order to learn from this master. And in putting that aside, I am able to make more progress. When I find that something is not true, then I'll deal with that then. But I have not, to this point, found anything that I have penetrated, which I haven't penetrated that much. But what I have penetrated, I found that to be exceedingly true and excellent. Enough that it's not worth it to me to hold on to what I have already mastered, reaching for the prize of the high calling. And so this is how I have approached this Dharma. And that works for me. So in asking you this week to look at things, I'm trying to take you out of the academic model into the land of realization and transformation. We talk about the four elements, that we're made of the four elements, but sometimes you see the fifth element. Do you have any idea what the fifth element is? Oh, good try. Read that somewhere, did you? So it has been noted as the space element. But Buddha Master calls it the consciousness element. So earth, air, fire, water, and consciousness, the consciousness element. And so if there's not a penetration, an acquaintance with, and a penetration with that consciousness element, then we're going to miss something. So I'm going to start the discourse now, and I am reading the translation of this discourse. And again, I'm saying I like it because it's colloquial in format, not academic. It helps you to get to know, not just to get to know the teacher, but to get to know the mind of the master. And in this way, one begins to take on the same mind, very much like a child. I could tell a lot about parents of a child by the behaviors of a child. I know, I guess I shouldn't tell this story, but I tell this story. At least half of you won't think you know who I'm talking about, so I won't tell the story. I'll just simply leave it at that. You can know a lot about the parents by observing the child. His Holiness Dorje Chang Buddha gives a discourse on the differences between exoteric and esoteric Buddhism, and he confers empowerment. Learning esoteric Buddhism, especially, let's see, don't want to read it. Okay, I'll read this. Today, you disciples have come here. Can you hear me okay? Today, you disciples have come here and toured around, which is rather tiring for you, I know. I would like to use this spare time we have to give a Dharma lecture to all of you. You don't need to put your palms together constantly. And that's referring to whenever they would make reference to him, they paid homage to him. So whenever his name was mentioned, that would go up. And he said, you don't have to do that constantly. The more natural you are, the better it's going to be. The key point is that you should listen attentively. I should be giving a Dharma lecture to you disciples every day. However, my main reason for traveling this time is to take a rest. When I'm at home, I'm sitting from morning until evening. And he would hold court every day so people could come in and they could ask questions, and he'd answer individual questions that, but in a way that it would be beneficial for everybody who happened to be present or to come in to hear a Dharma, to a Dharma assembly. When I'm at home, I'm sitting from morning until evening. There's no way for me to leave my seat. But after I left the country, I've delayed giving Dharma lectures due to sightseeing. I always feel that I should provide everyone with the benefits of the Dharma. Benefits of the Dharma meaning true Buddha Dharma principles. Today, I tell you very sincerely that I'm the most unusual master in the world. Such a master has very rarely been seen throughout history. Why do I say this? It is because you can ask me 100 questions and I will answer every one of them. No matter what question you pose, I can answer it, especially when it comes to questions on the Buddha Dharma. There are numerous sects and schools within the Buddha Dharma. However, if you ask me a question about the Dharma of any one of these sects or schools, I will know that Dharma. I also know about non-Buddhist religions. I've studied all religions: Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism, etc. Of course, my study of religions is not like the study other people engage in. Sometimes other people master a religion only after they study it their whole life. I learn very quickly. I can, in an instant, master the teachings, the rules, the lineages of a religion. That's why I dare to invite you to pose any type of question, and I will answer it. However, I'm not saying that I am a very amazing person. Based on a heart of humility and a heart that views myself as equal to everyone, I expound the Dharma to you, representing the Buddha. I truly am very ashamed. But why would I say that I can answer any question you pose? Am I expressing a view of self or pride? If I did not state the facts clearly to you, I would just simply be lying. Since I stated the facts clearly to you, I am not lying. I'm telling you the truth. So I would now like to hear you disciples pose questions. I will expound the Dharma to you based upon the questions that you ask. Because of time constraints, you can ask several questions on minor subjects, but I will give answers to only one or two questions that are on major subjects. All right? All of you should now think about a practical question you would like to ask. Of course, I will also answer a question, even if it is not a practical one. But I fear that I will be wasting everyone's time. I'd like to bring up a matter to the Buddha Master, that is, and His Holiness says, speak a little louder. He says, I would like to ask the Buddha Master to expound upon a certain subject. Everyone sitting here knows that we're truly learning the Buddha Dharma. They especially know we're learning the esoteric school. Many people say that those who learn the esoteric school are only able to recite mantras and do not understand the sutras. They say that we lack knowledge. How should we respond when we encounter people who say this? How should we understand the matter? I asked Buddha Master to expound this for us. And he says, this is a matter that everyone knows about. Wherever there is the Buddha Dharma on this earth, as soon as one mentions practitioners of esoteric Dharma, people say such practitioners just chant and recite mantras. People say that those in that school of Buddhism just simply recite chants. This is how they dismiss the esoteric school. This is especially true with respect to exoteric Buddhism, which has always held such a position. The 10 main schools of esoteric Buddhism all hold such a position. I'm referring to schools of Buddhism besides the esoteric schools, such as Consciousness Only School, the Faxiang School, the Yunming School, the Caodong School, the Shao School, the Huayan School, the Tian Tai School, the Vinaya School, the Pure Land School, and so on. All those schools have consistently slandered esoteric or Vajra schools. It is very good that you asked the question today. And based on your question, I'll give you, disciples, a rough explanation. If I were to go in detail, I would not be able to finish the lecture. I can only give a brief explanation. Learning esoteric Buddhism, especially learning to be a Vajra master, is very difficult. It is not as easy as learning exoteric Buddhism. There's a strict rule in the esoteric school for those who want to be Vajra masters. That is, anyone who learns esoteric Dharma and wants to be a Vajra master must first understand exoteric Dharma. At this point, some disciples might say, how could we meet that test? My answer, you are not Vajra masters. To be a Vajra master, you must understand first the exoteric Buddhism. If you don't understand exoteric Buddhism, you cannot become a Vajra master. There are two methods to understand exoteric Buddhism. One method is to exert effort in learning the sutras. Another method is that your Buddha master, a Vajra master, teaches you a type of wisdom that enables you to open yourself to the sutra teachings. One method is to exert effort in learning the sutras. Another method is your Buddha master teaches you a type of wisdom that enables you to open yourself to the sutra teachings. Two very different methods. This is a very fast method. Sometimes learning sutra teachings one day with that method is equal to other people learning sutra teachings for 10 years. Of course, although I learned Dharma teachings in that rigorous way, my Vajra master, the most important part of my learning such teachings came from opening up to them. And it normally takes a great deal of time to do this. For example, the Diamond Sutra is one volume of the Great Prajnaparamita Sutra. There's 600 volumes, you know that, right? 600 volumes in the Great Prajnaparamita Paramita Sutra. Not only must you memorize all 600 volumes, you must also thoroughly understand the principles contained in the sutras in those volumes. That is easier said than done in our world today. How many Dharma teachers can truly understand the Diamond Sutra? If you understand the Diamond Sutra, you thereby end the cycle of birth and death. Understanding the Diamond Sutra is understanding just one of the 600 volumes of the Prajna Paramita. There's still 599 volumes that you've not yet learned. The Diamond Sutra is the summary of Prajna. It is also the summary of all the sutras. That's why the summary of the sutras is called the Diamond Sutra, the indestructible, that which ends the cycle of birth and death. There's only such shallow learning within exoteric Buddhism. Of course, I cannot say that that is because the learning within exoteric Buddhism is shallow. Those in the exoteric Buddhism cannot become accomplished. I'm not in the Dharma, I'm not saying that. They also can become accomplished. There have been a great many people in the exoteric Buddhism who have attained the fruit of arhatship. Arhatship is not Buddhahood, right? There have also been great bodhisattvas in exoteric Buddhism. Where did those great bodhisattvas come from? They mainly came to this world voluntarily in response to its needs based upon karmic conditions. They learned the esoteric Dharma for some eons. They came to esoteric Buddhism in that particular life with the goal of manifesting the fruit of accomplishment to benefit the teachings, branches, and disciples of exoteric Buddhism. They voluntarily manifested themselves in the world. So can one see how one need not have any pride over their accomplishments in life? Because actually we're running on the fuel of another mind stream that did that work. We're running on their fuel. It's not ours to even have any pride around. Now, I didn't master the Diamond Sutra. This is what became apparent to me when I was sitting with myself. And I was thinking of just reflecting on my life and how some could consider some of the works that I did as good. And yes, the works can be considered good, but I have no reason to claim the fame of Pannavati being good. Now this is a deep teaching, and I don't want to destroy anybody's confidence who's shifting and making changes in their life. Some days I'm speaking to you, and some days I'm speaking to those who have certain realizations, and how not to let those realizations hinder them and destroy the good that they could do if they had not gotten caught up in how good they are. Because that's the main hindrance as we start to grow and develop. There is a kind of pride of life, a pride in self that takes over. It just substitutes worldly pride. It substitutes spiritual pride for worldly pride. That's all. It's that we just move the pride over to this side, to this category, And that's the danger for us when we're making progress on the path. So yes, we're constantly encouraging the progress that we're making on the path, but we keep sprinkling in, beware of the danger. Beware of the danger. And Buddha Master would say, that's why, yes, I am in fact a Buddha. To say I'm not is to tell a lie. But what I'm saying is that I am one in a Manichaean form with humility to show you how to conduct and carry yourself, that you can be more of an advantage to those in samsara, because that's the whole purpose of it all. If you have a good quality, the purpose of it all is to benefit sentient beings. That's the purpose of it all. It's to benefit. That's the least that you do. It goes without saying, is what I'm saying. So we shouldn't be caught up in it in any kind of way or wrapped around in pride in any kind of way. But we just function we just function. And we might function in the world of goodness, but without any thought, I am good. And so he says that I act this way and I say these things to teach you, to be a mirror for you, how you should be, even as you're growing in the Dharma, even as one is awakening, how to hold it rightly so that more of it can come forward. One thing it does for you, it helps you when you're going through situations in your own life that seem to take all of your attention and take all of your. He says, no, it doesn't have to unless you give it that. So, like when Pannavati died, it was a rough time for me. But I couldn't say like I can't come do Dharma today because I'm mourning Pannavati, or I can't do. I had to keep doing what I do because that's my purpose for being here. I do have, to the extent that I'm looking and holding myself as a personal self. I do have the sorrows and the joys that come with that. But my job is, my great opportunity is to keep my eye on serving sentient beings. And if I do that, then the sorrows aren't so sorrowful and the joys are not too extreme. And I can go through these motions. But if I step back and fall back into my worldly life as being greater than recognizing why I am here, knowing why, understanding why I am here. And the only reason that people don't do this is because they don't know and don't understand why they're here. They're here because of causality, because of cause and condition. And they are fulfilling, or the repercussions, good or not good, of causes already planted. And those seeds are moved on in consciousness, found a suitable host, so I'm suitable for something, and those seeds start playing out. So these seeds of goodness, they're not really, they weren't my seeds. I'm the flowering of those seeds. And so that takes away all of my sense of self-pride. If I know that, if I don't know that, then I will think I'm accomplishing something so great. Listen to me today. I'm usually encouraging and yada yada. But today I'm issuing a warning. Why would you think a warning would be necessary? Okay, anybody else?
An obstacle then. So they're open.
Okay, anybody else?
Ego is crafty.
That's right.
Okay, those are all in one kind of category. I'm looking for another category.
Because if we don't know the consequences of our actions, then we'll just continue to repeat them.
Okay, that's in that same category.
It takes you away from the path.
Okay, that's in that same category.
I got a path. My path has gotten better. The focus.
I can tell it
I
has.
mean, from year to year, it's like what I'm doing, if it gets better, then stay with what you don't.
That's right. And that one's midway. So he just moved up to the mid, and any other. I'm going to forget the question in a minute.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, I can feel the difference and see the difference when I'm coming from the ego mind and I'm not. So I'm pointing to that.
That's pretty good. Any other ideas?
Giovanni says we become too comfortable.
Okay. That's good. Any other? That's still on that one side. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something that should really kind of excite you. if all of those are preliminary views that we have to hold. But if there is this caution and this warning, can you see how it implies how we're moving, how we're growing, how we're doing? You don't have to issue a caution if there's no possibility of you even being in that category. You see what I'm saying? So we are growing, we are developing, and the fruit of that cultivation is beginning to manifest for us. So the warning comes not when you don't need it, the warning comes when you need it. So everyone in this room should know how much, and who's listening through Zoom should begin to look and to recognize how much we are growing and developing. So much so that it's now time to start giving a little warnings like, don't get conceited, don't think beyond. But the warnings don't come in until they're needed. And so that lets me know, like you don't tell a little baby every morning in their crib, a little 3-month old, now don't go cross the street, okay? Because they can't. But when they get about 4 years old and they're thinking on their own a little bit, or something's been so long since I had a baby, I don't remember the right age. But then you have to, or maybe it's 6, you have to say, don't cross the street. You can play on this side of the street with whoever's on this side, but you cannot cross the street because of the danger of getting froggered, getting run over. Pac-Man days, I'm sorry, of getting run over. But you don't say it to a 3-month-old because they don't have the capacity yet, you see. So this is exciting to me. This is why I enjoy corrections. This is why I enjoy just, it says when you find a teacher that's constantly pointing out your faults, it says stay with that teacher. Because that's the one that you're going to make progress with. So I love these blessing outs, I call it, when the Buddha is instead of thinking, I disagree with that. Well, I don't feel that way. I mean, he's pointing you to something deeper that you can see, and he's also letting you know, in case you don't know what intersection you're at, I'm going to tell you. You can be at an intersection, and then they say, where are you? Like, I don't really know. There's no signpost. So I don't know. He said, I'll tell you what intersection you're at, And then he'll give an instruction to help you navigate that intersection or that part of town that you're heading to. And it's not before it's time. Before it's time is like we sing rock bye baby. That's what we're doing when you're a baby. But when you're approaching this stage, that's not the time for rockabye. That's the time for instructions and righteousness. That's the time for warnings. That's the time to say, pay attention to this. That's the time to say, this is coming up. Be ready for it. That's the time. And so we should know what time it is. We should know where we are. And it's a joyous thing. It's not. So receive instruction in that way. And it will benefit you greatly. And what will come, instead of feeling put down all the time, we will feel the confidence that comes when one is when there is promotion. I won't say when one is getting promoted, but when there is promotion, when there is development, there is movement in your there is the prajna manifesting. And this is part of prajna manifesting, being able to know when something is for your benefit, and not taking it as something that's designed to put you down. Is everybody with me? Mm-hmm. So not everybody can tolerate this. Yes.
Become experts in that kind of mind.
I'm saying that we reach a point that there is the expanse of the vastness of mind that requires cautions and parameters and breakers, things that will keep us safe as the expansion within us occurs. So Buddha Shakyamuni asked his disciples, which is more, the leaves in my hand or the leaves in the forest? And they said the leaves in the forest. He said, true. Through that, the leaves in my hand, the leaves in the forest is what I know. The leaves in my hand is just what I'm teaching you. And he chose what he wanted to teach them based on who they were, where they were, what time that was, and what they had to overcome in their mind consciousnesses. And he taught that. That's not all that he knew, and not all that he could have even taught. But he said, I teach this based on what you can receive and what you can awaken to. And so he says there's only such shallow learning within exoteric Buddhism. Of course, I cannot say that because the learning within exoteric Buddhism is shallow, that those in exoteric Buddhism cannot become accomplished. He said, I'm not saying that. They can also become accomplished in the Dharma. There have been a great many people in exoteric Buddhism who attained the fruit of arhatship. There have also been great bodhisattvas in exoteric Buddhism. Where did those great bodhisattvas come from then? They mainly came to this world voluntarily in response to the needs based upon karmic conditions of the people living here. They learned the exoteric Dharma for some eons. They came to exoteric Buddhism in that particular life with the goal of manifesting the fruit of accomplishment. For who? Not for themselves, but to benefit the teachings, the branches, and the disciplines of exoteric Buddhism. They voluntarily then manifested in this world. The writings of Tibetan esoteric Buddhism say that nobody in the Zen school has ever realized the first stage of a bodhisattva. This illustrates a principle. Within the Zen school itself, one cannot realize the level of a bodhisattva. The highest level in exoteric Buddhism is simply a fourth stage arhat. Such persons have the abilities similar to those of Jigong. The level of monk Jigong the level of monk Jigong was very low. How then could the sixth patriarch have attained the status of a Vajra Bodhisattva then, considering the fact that he was in the Zen school of exoteric Buddhism? It is because of his practice of previous lifetimes. He manifested in the world according to the karmic conditions of living beings. He came to this world to show what high accomplishment one can attain. Of course, there have been many patriarchs like that. Sometimes they manifest within exoteric Buddhism. As for you disciples who are sitting here, if you are not bodhisattvas already, it will be very difficult for you to become bodhisattvas just by learning exoteric Buddhism. You might ask, how do I know whether I'm a bodhisattva or not? Of course, you know whether you are an ordinary person or a holy person. Could it possibly be that you don't know yourself? Could it possibly be that you don't know the extent of your abilities? At this point, I would like to explain in detail a principle relating to the Zen school and the esoteric Buddhism. The Zen school is one school within exoteric Buddhism. There are other schools within exoteric Buddhism, such as Pure Land School and so on. I spoke about this. In exoteric Buddhism, if you learn one treatise, you become an expert on that treatise. For example, if you learn the Abhidharma, you become an expert in Abhidharma. If you learn Hetu Vidya treatise, you'll be called the greatest master of Hetu Vidya treatise. It's very difficult to find anyone in exoteric school who became the greatest master in more than one area. Take, for example, Dharma Master Byan Nang, who's so famous at this time. He's the greatest master of Abhidharma in the world today. We have a very good relationship. In one of my audio tapes, I said that he once came to my home supernaturally by flying through the air. When some of my disciples walked together with him in thin mud, his shoes never got sullied by the mud. at all. And then there's something in blueprint. It says, quickly answer that phone and then close this door. You see, right when I'm expounding the Dharma, a demonic obstacle comes in the form of a phone call asking us to participate in some demonic activity. That means that something had nothing to do with the Dharma, a distraction. We really get sidetracked by distractions. And that's one of the first things we have to work on, noticing how easily we get distracted by something. He said, and then when you finish, unplug that phone. And then he goes on. I am talking about the differences between esoteric and exoteric Buddhism. If someone in exoteric Buddhism thoroughly learns a certain treatise, he can become a great master in that particular area of wisdom. A moment ago, I said the Dharma master Biang Nang is the greatest master of Abhidharma today. He's at the Baoguang Temple in Jindu. He's also the abbot at Mount Ermei and the Wuyan Temple. Before 1949, this great old man was the dean of studies of the Han Tibetan Institute of Buddhist Doctrine. Dharma master Taizhu was the dean of that institute at that time. Dharma Master Biang Nang's accomplishment in the Dharma is great. However, no matter what accomplishment he attained in the end, he is only the greatest master of that Abhidharma Kosa treatise. In ancient times, there were also many people who were the greatest masters of certain areas, such as the greatest master of Abhidharma, the greatest master of Hetu Vidya, and so on. Now, Dharma Master Xuanzang was the greatest master of consciousness only thought. When I say greatest master, I mean the most amazing person in the world at that time in that field. And he carried out the teachings of the consciousness only school, which is part of exoteric Buddhism. Much of Buddhism in our world today focuses mainly upon consciousness only teachings. The consciousness only teachings are very amazing. It incorporates Amitabha, Hetu Vidya, and it studies Zen states, as well as the relationship between human consciousness and the universe. It does all this from a scientific perspective. And so when this Dharma master was learning the consciousness only teachings, he thought that the Buddha Dharma had many contradictions. He saw that one Dharma master preached the nihilistic view that Buddha Dharma is all about emptiness, while another Dharma master preached that the Buddha Dharma teaches the realness of everything in the universe. These Dharma masters debated amongst themselves, causing a confused state of affairs. Dharma Master Xuanzang felt that these teachings were truly contradictory, but he knew that the Buddha Dharma was supreme. He had no way to solve, though, the contradictoriness of the teachings, and he later resolved to go to India, the place where the Buddha lived, and seek the Dharma there. After undergoing all kinds of hardships, he made his way to India. Now, this is a real person. Now, I'm not speaking of Xuanzang Tong, who was the fictitious character in the book Journey to the West. I'm speaking of the real person and his real life. After he arrived in India, he went to Nalanda, where he learned the Dharma. At Nalanda Monastery, he learned various sutras and treatises very thoroughly, including treatises on the stages of yoga practice. And Dharma Master Xuanzang eventually participated in a debate where there were debaters from all of the numerous non-Buddhist schools of thought. He won first place in that debate. Then he traveled all over India. He took back to China 564 sutra scrolls, and they are in present-day Zhan. He organized many people to translate those Sanskrit sutras into Chinese, and he ultimately founded the Consciousness Only School. So then he talked about two of his disciples, and they came from different schools. And this is how we start to get confused and start rolling around in the muddle of partial teachings that disconnect and destroy us from a full understanding of the universal principles and how they intersect and how one thing is useful, a way of knowing or understanding something is useful in a particular circumstance, but not in another circumstance. And this is the difference in Buddhist studies versus the Buddha Dharma. The Buddha Dharma allows us to enter into the fullness to know what wisdom is in this moment, in this circumstance, concerning these people. And that's what's lacking in the world. So we come up with all our different ways to handle something, our different ways to try to resolve an issue. Well, I think we should do this. Well, I think we should do this. Both of them can be based on good principles, but are those the ones that necessarily need to be applied to resolve the matter in the most functional way, the most compassionate way? I mean, we're looking at a particular war that's going on right now, and we know that that's not being resolved in the most functional way, the most practical way, the most compassionate way, the most meaningful way. And yet, one side felt vindicated in their attack of another. That side feels vindicated in completely wiping out their whole line. And so they don't have to deal with this again, and they're fighting over a space, a land that one was occupying, that some other people, including us from the United States, came together and gave to this other group, put them on their land, and now it's theirs because the powers that be says that it's theirs, and because they also believe that their God gave it to them. And so they have a right to it, and that right entitles them to even kill off everybody else that's there. You see, this is, and I'm not saying that some parts of what they have fashioned could not be considered useful, but the ways that they effect it might not be right if you balance it up against what is compassionate, if you balance it up against, so it's to say that our wisdom is off. Our rationale cannot be trusted, and that we need teachers who teach us individually from the time we are a child up until we're the grown ones making the decisions and deciding what is needful in this situation. We need beings in the Monikaya form, like we are in the Monikaya form, human form, to be able to teach and instruct and encourage the minds to ascribe to a certain kind of wisdom, so that when they are in the position of power, either because it has been granted to them by others, or because they have the tools of power like guns and bombs, or for whatever puts us in the seat of power, that we know how rightly to decide issues. And that's what true justice is. It's not not the ways that we see justice, but what the true universal justice is. Some things don't look right, and some things that look right are not right. But how do you know? And what actually can resolve? We, I am saying, have the capacity to know what is beneficial, what is useful. We have the capacity to resolve. But if we haven't developed ourselves, cultivated ourselves, practiced until that becomes how we just naturally function, if we've not developed the parameters, particularly the patience to be able to work with those who don't have that mind, if we're still raising hell in our families and in our households, we can't go a week without an argument, we can't, we are not going to be qualified. We should sit down and shut up. We're not going to be qualified But when you can know yourself, you know that you can do this. Even if it doesn't feel good, you know this is what is required. Therefore, I do it. Then we're getting to the place that we're going to be useful to the world. We're going to be useful. So we shouldn't fool ourselves in the meantime. We can just know and look at, oh, dang, I'm really deficient in that area. And then work on it. That's all. That's all. And so if one is deficient, another doesn't need to be pointing it out. They need to be looking at their own deficiencies. So if we each look at our own deficiencies, we'll all get better at this, but we spend more of our time, looking at the deficiencies of others because it irritates us. So we have to work with we have to work with developing the discipline that puts down that irritation. Then we'll learn how to speak kindly to someone. Even if it's something that needs to be corrected, we can do it in a kinder way. This is, to be useful in the world, to really be useful in the world. This is what stepping out of oneself is about. It doesn't have anything to do with what's my occupation and, like stuff like that we think everything is about who we are in the world, like what our role, our title, our occupation, it's not about any of that stuff. It's about this. And if you're coming to penetrate this, then you're in the right place. Because you'll begin to penetrate one's own self. And a joy will arise out of it when one sees the good and when one sees the not good. When one sees the good in oneself and one sees the not good in oneself. One won't be particularly attached to anything other than the good, not the self. And then there's a freedom that comes with that. But getting to that freedom can be a little bumpy. It can be a little troublesome. Sometimes we even start to not have confidence in ourselves, which is good, but we can have confidence in the Dharma that is in us. That's what we have confidence in, the Dharma that's in us. When I say the Dharma that is in us, or I could even say the Buddha Dharma that's in us, and it doesn't mean that it's just Buddhism, is what I'm saying. That's part of it, but that's not all of it. There's a whole lot of folks who never practice Buddhism who are way further along in Buddha Dharma than Buddhists. Because it has to do with the truth of the universe. And then he told this story, and I think I just told this story, so I might not read it. This one is a good one. The next one I think is the one that I told before. I'll talk briefly about Master Dao Zhuang. He had vast supernatural powers, Vajra powers. He often had fun together. I wonder, did I miss the part? Did I read today the section where Buddha Master said, there's no way that you could be my disciple in this life? Did I read that today? Not today. Okay. So he was talking, I think it might be a little further. This is a long one. I won't get through it. So maybe I'll skip these two stories because I do want to read. Okay. I'm going to skip those stories. The stories are great because the stories help us to understand how to use something. It ceases to be just the facts, but it creates a scenario where there are many outcomes. But I will read these stories next time because one is on where he explains that that there is a shallowness to right and wrong. that one has to pass to enter into wisdom. And so he gives a story and it just looks black and white. This is right and that's wrong, but he asks you to really think about it. When you think about the causes that would come or the conditions that would arise after doing what you thought was the right thing that was going to give rise to these things. And they will be so not right that it would have been better that one took a slight vector to wrong to avoid all of these things happening. For instance, I can give you a real simple example. Like if the Nazis came and knocked on your door and said, "Are you hiding, any Jews here?" and you're hiding one under your floor, and you say, to not lie, I say, yes, he's under the floor. What was the point? It's, but you didn't lie. And then to say, no, I have no one here, and it spared the life of that family. Now, which one would weigh the most in your mind? So it's not like when we say always tell the truth, always. Let's say that you cheated on your husband, and for 10 years that nagged you. You just got a little discombobulated and got turned around in the relationship and lost your confidence, or somebody came along, saw you were down, and you gave yourself away that way, and then you said, "What the hell am I doing?" And you got yourself back together, and 10 years have passed. Now it's it's in your mind all the time because you know what you did. It's in your mind all the time, but and finally, like, I'm now a Buddhist. I'm gonna make everything right. And you go and tell your husband, 10 years ago, I cheated on you. Now, that's what I mean about understanding the difference around something that is a general statement, a general way of being, but the wisdom that enters into that is what is meaningful, what is useful, what is beneficial during these times. There were times, one time I was married for 28 years. You can't be married to somebody for 28 years and not need to talk to somebody. And so we went to counseling, I think in year number 7 or year number 10 or something like that, And we went together for one. It could have been 2, but I think it was for one session. And then my husband didn't go anymore. I went for a whole year, and I got better. I stopped hating him. The therapist really, really helped me to know me. Not so much him, but he helped me to know me. Once I knew me, then that me knew what I wanted and what I didn't want concerning him. Before, I didn't know. I just had all these ideas about something, but that helped me. But the one thing I asked Jay why he wouldn't go. He said, because, it was two times. And he said, because by the second time I went, I realized that I loved you, but I actually don't like you. And so he said to not make things worse, in that mindset, it was better for me not to hear your yabba yabba because I saw everything in an entirely different way. And he didn't go anymore. I kept going. I got better. And in my getting better, that 7 years turned into 28 years until I was ready to become a nun and loved him when I left. And so that's the difference I'm trying to say. So we can get too caught up on right and wrong, only being able to see this far. And judging somebody on our vision that can only see this far, But one who can see this far, maybe we should acquiesce. And that's what he was talking about here in listening to the master. If you feel their vision is further, listen. So he teaches us how to take the Dharma, and then he talks about a lot. He said it's impossible. As I said a moment ago, I'm going to skip over here. The Prajna Treatise alone has 600 volumes. Dharma Sutra is one of those. Therefore, one must study for more than 10 years or for 20 years to completely understand those sutras. One must then participate in a debate and pass the test. And this is how people become like known with certain status, like one who's a Dharma king or one, how they got those rankings. They're just not nebulous titles out there. There was a procedure established for them to be able to carry that title, that one could then respect them if they had that title, because they would know what they had done, what they had studied, what they had perfected according to those who witnessed their behavior and who utilize their wisdom. So it's a very organized thing. Don't think it's just a wussy thing and we like doink and give titles out to people, because it's not like that. It is highly organized and structured. And so it said one must then participate in a debate and pass the test. Only then can one be taught how to ring bells, or how to beat drums, how to apply mudras, how to recite mantras, and perform Buddhist rites. That's what should be, that's the progression. So how long before one gets to ring the bells, beat the drums, apply mudras, and recite mantras? I just read it. One must study for more than 10 years, or in some schools, 20 years, to be able to get the right to do that, okay, to be able to perform Buddhist rites. Therefore, it is not the case that the patriarchs and the greatly virtuous ones of the esoteric schools lack knowledge. Rather, it is the case that the knowledge of those in exoteric Buddhism could not even be mentioned in the same breath with the knowledge of the patriarchs and greatly virtuous ones of the esoteric schools. Knowledge is the foundation in the esoteric school. Only with this foundation can one begin to learn the esoteric or operate the esoteric Buddhism. One is also required to practice the 4 preliminary practices, which there are 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 water offerings, 100,000 recitations of the 100-syllable mantra, and 100,000 mandala offerings. Completing the practicing of these takes about 12 years. So learning unless you really like a machine, completing the practices of these things takes 12 years. So about 12 years. So learning the esoteric Dharma is not a trifling matter. So don't hold it in a trifling way. That is why so many people become bodhisattvas and people of great wisdom as a result of having learned the esoteric Dharma. Hearing this, you disciples may feel daunted. You may be thinking, we have nothing. How can we learn the esoteric Dharma? Do we have to learn those treaties as the Buddha Master just explained to us? No. For you, it is more simple and convenient because I specifically transmit inner tantric Dharma. That is the gift and the value of Buddha Master. I specifically transmit inner tantric Dharma. With inner tantric Dharma, you do not need to learn those treaties as long as the Dharma protecting bodhisattvas agree. You learned them in previous lives. If you had not learned them in previous lives, how could you be qualified to even be my student? It can only be said that the karmic conditions have not matured for you to enter into. All right. I want to I'm going to end. I need to stop because it's almost 1:45. I tell you, I get into these things, get lost. That's why I'm late sometimes, because I'll start at 7:00 in the morning. Before I look, I say, okay, I've got 4 hours more. And I look again and it's, 10:00 and I say, okay, I got an hour. I'll look again and it's 10 minutes to 12 because it becomes timeless for me. And I'm eating and I'm absorbing this, but not in this fundamental step-by-step logical facts kind of academic way. It's it's just almost like being a swirl of wisdom, being immersed in it, you know. Like I love that phrase and her song, like smoke dancing in the wind, not caught or bound by anything. You know, the wisdom is coming in such a soft way that it wraps around me, and you can take it, you can receive it without so much brain processing, without so much mental processing. It's like the atmosphere. You're in a certain atmosphere. And this is what this Dharma is all about. And it's wonderful, those of you who can be here in person to receive it. That's not the same. If you're online, it's wonderful that you can receive it, but it's going to be a little bit different. And you can receive versus being here in person. And if you listen to it tomorrow, it's going to be different because there's different circumstances, you know, that's going to affect how you hear it and how you understand it and how you take it in, even the environment in which you're listening to it. And then if you read it later, if it gets put into writing, it's going to be less. And if you read it 500 years from the time it occurred, there's going to be less and less. I mean, it starts devolving, less and less and less of being able to catch the life property of it, the consciousness element of it. I'm saying. So don't take it as a small measure that, you know, that you're here in person to hear it, because you'll get it in to a greater degree. And don't worry so much about taking, you know, like a lot of notes about it, because while you're writing a note, you're missing something that you need to hear. He said, you won't have to write so much about this. You'll hear it. And said, don't worry, because I'll repeat it over and over and over in the same way. And I'll repeat it again and again and again in different ways. And ultimately, you'll get it, just like you learned some things about life from your living in a household. You learned something there. You didn't write it down. Let me catch that. Let me write that note down, you know, but you lived it. And in this way, we're beginning to live the Buddha Dharma and be changed and transformed. And we may not even be aware of it. To a certain point, that's good, because then we don't get caught up in our egos. But we do need to be aware of it enough that we can see that which is good moving in us and through us, because we started out with, I know some babies that never learn the word no, you know, because they think that parents think that no is a dirty word, but they need to learn no. You don't have to explain everything to a 2-year-old as if he is 14. He can just learn no means no. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if we are of the age where we think these are little grown people, they're not grown yet. They're just little people. And our job is to train them up in certain ways. And that's, you know, how the training will go for you. But then when you get to a different place, you need a different set of skills. You know, you can tell too, because you start getting really weighed down. But as you start to learn these different skills, like give it to me straight, okay, and I'll look at that. You know, you don't feel pressed down or burdened down anymore. You start to feel, yeah, I'm about to be a grown up. You know, we start getting into our teenage years in the Dharma and know that we are growing and we are developing, and we can see this, and there's some discernment coming, and there's all of these kinds of things. And we start getting out of our way. And we start really growing and developing. That's how the self gets eradicated. You can't like just chop off the self and throw it away. You know, it dissolves as the wisdom arises. Then the ignorance of that independent self begins to dissolve. And so I think I'll like to end right here. And don't try to take in everything that I said today. Just wait and see what settles on you throughout the week. Just one little thing will come up here, one little thing there. And then one begins to take care of their own problems, take care of their own issues. They take care of their own views. Yeah. Thank you. Could somebody close for us today?
May each day, but especially today, may we hold great love, honor, and reverence for all of our great mothers. May we in turn be that great mother for everyone. Being the hand that helps someone cross the street when they need to get somewhere safely. Being the hug that helps somebody when they're afraid of the dark. Being the medicine when we ail. Providing the nourishment when we're hungry. Celebrating each other's great joys like the mother celebrates every step we take. And to love unconditionally like all of our great mothers, everywhere, everybody, all the time.